Welcome to the Parallel Legacies podcast, where I'm just one of four dudes, man. I got three of my best friends with me. I got Doc Brown.
Oop.
I got Mitch.
What's good?
I got S. Dot.
Going on, y'all?
Yeah, man. So, I generally try to get straight to it when we're doing our show, man. And normally I kind of pass the ball, to let somebody else talk, but I kind of want to take the lead on this one a little bit, and I want to talk about the results from the verdict, I should say, from the Kyle Rittenhouse case, right? And I think that I may have the unpopular opinion, especially amongst our community, concerning the situation, right? So we have to first and foremost take our feelings out of the situation, man. And it's point blank period in the statement when it comes to that, right? Because if you look at the totality of the case, the laws in Wisconsin are far different from Chicago, New York, LA, big cities with a large Democratic population, right? So if you look at the evidence from the case from start to finish, although he was 17, he was supervised while he had the AR. I think he had an AR-15, right? Not only that, I've seen the video and I've seen the different angles of the video and what happened in the video. And from my opinion, man, the kid, he was in the right, because in every instance, he took well-aimed shots at the victims, because I won't call them rioters like the judge mandated in the trial. He took well-aimed and well-placed shots at the victims, causing little to no collateral damage. And then I want to say that the most damning part of the entire thing was the survivor. And the defense asked the survivor directly, yo, when you had your hands up with your cell phone in one hand and your pistol in the other hand, did he shoot you? And the dude replied, no. And then he said, okay. And he rolled the video forward a little bit more. He said, at this point, did he even point the gun at you? And he again replied, no. He says, okay, well, when did Kyle Rittenhouse engage you with his firearm? When I pointed my firearm at him. Bro, at that point, we have the right to self-defense, man. I mean, I understand, how really a lot of the arguments are, well, we know what his intentions were, this, that, and the other. But the only intention of his that was made public was him wanting to protect a car dealership during the civil unrest, right? But there's another point that we have to take from this case. And what that point is the precedence that this ruling sets when it comes to self-defense, right? On the flip side of that, we also have to understand that we know beyond a shadow of a doubt that we're operating in two different judicial systems. Like, let's just call it what it is. We're operating in two different judicial systems. However, this was to the letter of the law, man. And as tragic as it was for those people to lose their lives, the kid acted in self-defense, man. So that's my thoughts on it, man. What do you guys think?
So I'll go ahead and jump in here. All what you said is factual. As far as the court system, except the fact that you cannot, you can't go into a area with provocation. And the whole idea of him carrying the AR was provoking an angry mob.
Mm-hmm.
All of these people there were upset, angry, whatever have you. And he walked in there knowing that there was a chance he was going to have to shoot somebody. Now, as far as the law is concerned, yeah, could it have been self-defense? I still question it. Even looking at the video, I still question whether or not that was self-defense. But the jury had a choice to make in that, and I can't argue that them saying that it was self-defense was wrong. I don't believe that it was wrong. I just don't believe when you talk about totality of circumstances that they fit the bill on that. Because of the fact that really he was not supposed to be there, supervised or not, with that weapon. And that caused a lot of what happened. Had he been there without a weapon, or even if I don't know if you saw how the whole thing transpired, but if his actions were to guard that car dealership and he stayed there, I think we got a different thing on our hand if he was approached by them and then everything popped off. But he's walking the streets with an AR as if he's saying, "Come on, get it."
Doc, I don't.
Somebody challenged him on that.
I don't disagree with that premise, Doc. Like I absolutely agree with that. I mean, because like if we being real, we know what it was. We know what it is. You know what I'm saying? Like we knew. But even when they started the entirety of everything, I think we all knew, yeah, this kid gonna get off. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's a tragic situation, man. But as Dot, Mitch, what y'all think, man? Before we keep pushing forward,
I'll go next, man. I'm not going to disagree with either one of you guys. I think the self-defense thing comes into play quite heavy, but I kind of have to lean more to what Doc was saying. You know, the concealed carry is in effect for a reason, right? You can still carry weapons so you're not provoking people. That's why you don't carry it out on your hips, and that's why you don't walk around with shotguns and AR-15s. Like the Wild Wild West, right? We don't do things like that anymore. You can still carry because you're there. It's there to protect you if you need it to be. You're not carrying it out in the open, waving it around, having people ask, "Oh, why do you have that?" or things like that, because it's going to cause concern of why you have a weapon. The thing that I have about Kyle is the fact that he said that he came out to protect this dealership, but no one asked him to. No one asked him to come out there and guard it. It wasn't his legal right to do that. That's what the police was there for. I believe in that case, you need to let the law do what they were there to do. And the thing that bothers me the most about the whole situation is that the cops saw him walking around with AR-15 and no one ever stopped him. No one stopped him. No one took it away. No one told him, "Hey, man, you need to go home because you're going to provoke violence." No one ever did that. And I think there's a failure on the law enforcement part of it, because they should have done that. They should have made him, or they should have took the gun away from him and be like, "Hey, if you're going to protect the dealership, that's fine, but you're not going to have this AR-15 over there." And I believe because he had that weapon, it was very provoking. And when it's provoking and there's violence and there's anger, more people are going to see that. Well, I have a gun too. You know what I mean? Like, I don't care if you got a gun. And it turns into something that really shouldn't be. Now, when you talk about the self-defense part of it, yeah, when guns are involved and someone points a gun at you, you have the inherent right to defend yourself. Absolutely. My thing is that it could have been avoided. The whole situation could have been avoided if the police had to do what they were supposed to do. And if Kyle didn't feel that it was his right to go into a place that he's not even from, to be a part of something that he shouldn't be there in the first place. Absolutely. He didn't even live there.
Absolutely. The kid was from Illinois. Absolutely.
He was from Illinois. So he injected himself in a hostile situation that he should never have done. And I believe that is the whole premise behind this whole conversation. And I'm pretty sure that this conversation is going to go where I think it's going to go. But I'm going to hold off and let S. talk. And then we'll come back to me. Yeah.
Right.
Y'all all hit, very key points, very valid points. Was it self-defense? Yeah. I mean, you can see the kid clearly, from all angles, being chased down, being, pushed down to the ground, whatever else, Okay, yeah. But again, let me harp on the fact that this kid is 17 years old. with a bunch of adults, right? I mean, because you're not an adult at 17, right? So you drive from one state to another to insert yourself into a middle of something that has, I'm gonna just say, not a damn thing to do with you, right? Again, yeah, you have rifle with you. We all know what that Kool-Aid feel like, running through our veins, as 17-year-old kids, because all of us had weapons on our hips at 17 years old. Every last one of us on this line.
Right.
Now it was in defense of our country, but we were there. So yeah, he's feeling himself a little bit, and he's out there. And again, right. So not to beat a dead horse, man, because I think all points was made. But I'm like, as a parent, I'm like, where is his parents?
She was there with him.
I get you, right? So I'm going to take another stance here, right? And I think this case is going to set the precedence for two things. One, that is okay. It is perfectly okay for you to arm yourself and, in the name of whatever you deem as a worthy cause, go and put yourself in the middle of something to provoke it and do whatever, right? Because it's going to be self-defense, right? That is the precedence that this case set. The other thing is, parenting does not exist nowadays, right? Now we're talking about two systems of law here. Had this kid look like you or I, his parents would have been called into question. How did he get the weapon? Who purchased the weapon for him? Who got the ammo for him? Why wasn't he in the house? All these other questions, but because he looked the way that he did, and he's in a place where the right to carry is such a hot topic, and it's okay, right? Because we have to protect ourselves, right? Because that's what the architects of this union, wanted. It is okay for that, and there's no question of parenting. That boggles my mind that this is a kid, man. Oh, and I'll end off in the fact that you had every last Christian-based racist organization, to include the Fraternal Order of Police, that paid for his defense. We don't see a conflict of interest here.
Hey man, see,
I'll leave it there, bro.
I didn't want to see, and I knew this conversation was going to take that turn what we talked about because of the way that he looked. And you're right, Sharod, man, you hit it right on the head, man. So, if it was a person of color, not only would they have been looking at his parents, they would have dug so deep into his background to figure out what he was prior. Oh, did you know at 14 he was arrested for stealing candy from Walmart? Oh, he's a thug. You know what I mean? Like those things would have started taking shape and form to make him into a bad guy. Now, I'm going to tell you guys a story. It's going to be really quick. I remember when I was stationed in Peterson Air Force Base, Colorado. A couple of my friends, we went to Denver to a Denver Broncos game, and I had a friend with me. I'm not going to say his name, man, because he probably actually listens to this. He had a 9mm that he just bought, and we was about 18, 19, man. And he was so proud to have this weapon that he bought a holster, and he carried it on the outside. Now, being cops, of course, in the military, we looked the law up before we went to Denver, and they had open carry law. You can open carry a gun in Denver, Colorado at the time. Right. So we went into this liquor store, man, and he had the weapon on his hip. It was 4 black guys walking to this liquor store, and the liquor store was a white guy. The white guy was the owner. We went into the liquor store, man, not posing a threat, doing what 19-year-old kids do. I mean, well, no, not even 19. We were probably 21 at the time. We were joking around, doing a lot of stuff, man. We ended up buying the liquor, and we left. About 3 blocks down, man, there was a roadblock set up with about 14 police cars and like a SWAT van. They pulled us over, and they got us all out of the car. And the guy was like, "Yeah, man, do you guys come from this liquor store?" We was like, "Yeah." He was like, "Yeah, the owner said that he was fearful for his life because one of you guys had a gun. But the gun never left the holster. The gun was on his hip. We didn't do anything wrong. He never threatened it. He never touched it. Never did we even talk about the gun the whole time. So the cops got us down, man, put us all on the ground. Needless to say, they took the gun from him. They impounded our vehicle. They searched the vehicle, make sure there was no more guns in the car. Like it went left really quick. But the premise behind this whole story is because we looked the way that we looked. You know how we got off? There was a reservist there that worked at our base. It was like, I know y'all. And he was like, yeah, man, you work with us. You know what I mean? Like, you're a cop. He's like, oh, man, I know these guys. Needless to say, they kept the guns, but they was like, all right, you guys are free to go. But the only reason why we were free to go is because of him. But it was because of our skin color at the time that we were treated the way we were treated. And I tell this story because I go back to what I said before. And since Sharod brought it up, if Kyle was, I don't know,
Jamal,
me walking down there with an AR-15 at the time, you best believe that I would have been on my face. They would have taken the gun from me, and I probably would have been arrested for carrying the gun. You guys, I'm trying to remember the case, man, where there was a shooting somewhere, and there was a black guy walking around with an AR-15, and they swore that he was the one that did it, but he didn't even have anything to do with it. I'm trying to think of what that was, but I'm gonna look it up and I'm gonna bring it back up. But we get a bad rap, man, because of our skin color that we didn't choose. We didn't go, to God and was like, yeah, I'll take that one. Like we never did that. But we get so, I don't know, man. It just seems that, when you are a person of color, everything changes. And when you talked about the two type of justice systems, you said that there were two. In our reality, there's one. And the crazy part about that whole thing that bothers me the most is when you look at the symbol of justice, she has on a blindfold, which means the blindfold means that there is no anything, like everybody should be treated the same. But it's not. We will never be treated the same. And, this is why people of color get so upset about this Kyle case, not the fact that it was self-defense, but because he was allowed to do what he did. He was allowed to walk freely on those streets with that gun that we cannot do. We can't even do it in our own neighborhoods, let alone somebody else's. And that's why we get so upset about it, and rightfully so. So I'll pass to them.
So the thing is this, right? And Mitch, I'm glad you brought that up. I know the case that you're talking about, but I can't quite remember the.
I'm going to look it up.
The particulars of the case. However, there was a social experiment that was done. It was popping all around Facebook, right? I want to say it was in Washington State. I'm not 100% sure, but I think it was in Washington State, and I believe that Washington State also has constitutional carry, right? So it was a white guy walking up the street with an AR-15, right? Not doing anything, not gesturing with it or anything, and he was approached. Now, words are powerful, and I'm going to go expound on that a little bit more a little bit later. But he was approached by a single officer, right? The officer came up to him, hey, what's going on? I see you got an AR-15, which is your right to do so, but I'm trying to understand why you have this AR-15, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The dude responded, well, am I being detained, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Constitutional carry, whatever. The cop checked him out, let him go, right? A little bit later, was a black guy walking around with AR-15, same set of circumstances. The response from the officers was absolutely different, right? They put this kid on the ground at gunpoint. The cops didn't approach him at all. He parked his vehicle in an advantageous position, drew his weapon system on the kid. The kid put his hands up, got down on the ground, followed every direction. They ended up taking a gun from the kid, and then essentially it was a whole SWAT team around the kid, right? And that's why I say that we deal with what I perceive as two separate justice systems and two separate systems. And yes, justice is supposed to be blind, but she peeking up under that that blindfold. You know what I'm saying? But Doc, I saw you was trying to get in there. Go. I'm gonna shut up.
I was just gonna reinforce what Mitch was saying as far as it being one justice system. Y'all know I'm really into the law and stuff like that, but one of the biggest
Doc
things,
lawyer.
yeah, man. One of the biggest things that resonates with me when Mitch said that was, if we go back to the Constitution, what does it talk about? Liberty and justice for all, equality for all men, this, that. But the key word, again, is all. And it's not inclusion. It really is exclusion, because they're not talking about us.
Because we got to remember when the Bill of Rights was made, they weren't thinking about us with the Bill of Rights.
We were not considered equal at that time.
At that time, you're right. Absolutely. You
the only reason the 3/5, I was just going to bring up the fact, the only reason the whole 3/5 equation came into play is just so they had more voting power. You know what I'm saying, for those states, because they just didn't have the population, so they have more representation. So I mean, just a little nugget right there to throw out there for our listeners. It was like, 3/5 of a man was only to benefit them, so they have more representation in Congress. That was it. But go ahead, Mitch. I'm sorry.
It's all good, bro. I posted a picture on our family chat. And it showed Kyle behind the judge, leaning down, and they were watching the video and stuff like that. And I just posed a question in there, and I asked the question: have you ever in your lifetime seen a potential violent criminal be able to freely rest behind a judge like that with no type of repercussion, or no one telling him, hey, back up, sit down, or do anything? I've never in my life seen that before. Guilty or innocent. I've never seen it. Like, I've never seen a judge befriend a potential violent person like that. And just, it was like, oh man, it's okay. When I first saw that picture, I knew right then what it was. I knew for a fact that he was going to be not guilty.
Hey, Mitch, man, but it's just the power behind the words. I mean, the stage was set from the beginning.
Right, of course.
You can't call them victims.
Right.
Exactly.
I'm like, you have
stole the words out of my mouth.
You have to, right? You'll go ahead and take away the one charge that he probably should have been charged with, which was the weapons charge. I mean, the man or the boy went from one state to another.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, at a very minimum, man, he should have been charged with you know what I'm saying, carrying as a minor. I don't know, Judge Brown probably, and you know what I'm saying, correct me to 100%. But either way, I mean, the one charge that he probably should have got was thrown off the table before we even got to the to the final verdict. So it was like, when you're sitting there and the game is, bro, that's like playing Uno, man, with nothing but draw forwards, bro.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You're going to win.
That's right. When I tell you, brother, you took the words right out of my mouth, because that's exactly where I was going when I said that words matter, right? So, as in my opinion, right, this is just my opinion, my thoughts on the situation is that the difference between someone being called a victim and being called a looter draws a different emotional response from the jurors. Point blank, period.
No question.
Once the judge was like, yo, you can't call them victims. Once that happened, that set the stage for the jurors to come with the verdict that they came with. I think that words matter, man. And us, I'm gonna get on my soapbox for a little bit, fellas, but us as Black people, we have to learn and understand the English language, because this Ebonics and whatever else they want to call the way we speak and in our vernacular and whatever else, we have to understand the power of words, and we have to understand the power of our vernacular, right? Because there are situations where my name is peanut butter and jelly as it comes. Eric Young is my name, right? Somebody looking at that name, Eric Young, they're automatically going to assume that I'm a white person. And then when they hear me speak, oh yeah, man. And then when I come in and see me, it's like, oh man, this you done fooled the hell out of us. You know what I mean? It's it's sad, man. And I kind of want to, I don't want to harp too much on the case. I kind of want to go the direction I kind of wanted to go with this is to talk directly about our justice system and the how terrible in some cases our justice system are for our people. So we can go on from there. I mean, if you want to bring up the case, by all means, brothers, but I kind of want to go on from there.
Just one small point in that, and I think we all agree on this is the fact that so the judge drove this case to where it went. He absolutely did. He made sure he turned into Matumbo whenever the prosecution said something. He slapped that crap down.
No.
Like, he was like, no, this ain't happening. Mm-hmm. And he drove that case. So I actually really didn't expect anything different. When I saw the verdict, I was like, yep, while people in my background was high-fiving and turning the news to Fox News so they could see it and celebrate. Mm-hmm. I knew it was coming. So anyway, as far as the two justice systems or the justice system, this is where I probably don't agree, and probably I would say that in all actuality, the United States has the best justice system in the world. Mm-hmm. And
for the people it's meant for.
Call it what you want, man. I would hate to be in Argentina and facing a crime, or Panama, or wherever.
Saudi Arabia.
Yeah. I mean, chop your hand off? Hey, no, thank you. But at the same time, are there a lot of things that need to be reformed in our justice system? Absolutely. There are things even now. Some I don't agree with as far as, like, as Black people, we talk about, letting people out of prison who were there for certain drug offenses and things like that. The only thing I can say about that is you committed the crime when the law was that. Maybe you need to serve the time that you were given. Now, some of those sentences were extreme. For instance, somebody going to jail for a couple marijuana joints and getting 20 years. I know that's a little extreme, but it happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, some of those could probably definitely be thrown out. Did they deserve some jail time? Possibility. But there are a lot of things in the justice system, and even equally, just for all American citizens, that probably should be thrown out. I mean, there's still laws on the books like don't tie your draft up to a night pole at 6 p.m. Who has a draft? So when you see things like that is just completely unnecessary, they need to go back and get those laws out of the books. Like, there's a lot of things that need to be taken out, and some of them were specifically put there against African Americans, and they're still in the books. So yes, I agree with you that the justice system, I mean, yeah, it needs to be an overhaul, but I definitely wouldn't trust.
I gotta disagree.
Any other?
I gotta jump in there and disagree.
Why is that?
Because we don't disagree with each other enough. So
no,
just go in here
and disagree.
Hey, man, but when it comes down to what Doc just said, I mean, all right, the difference between cocaine and crack, baking soda.
Mm-hmm.
Crack.
How you know that, sir? How do you know that?
I saw it on TV.
Okay.
But the fact is, right? Crack gets you, football numbers. Cocaine gets you months. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Do we look at things that have matured, I guess, over time, the way that we look at it? I mean, marijuana. I mean, you just spoke about that. I mean, in a lot of states, marijuana is being decriminalized and everything else. So when you have somebody, you have people that's sitting here living a good life and profiting off of the legalized marijuana industry now, and you have somebody, right, that was not taken away from the crime, but that was probably trying to just feed themselves and their family, off a couple of bags of marijuana or whatever, right? That's sitting in jail for a long time. I think we definitely need to overhaul that. And here goes my, and before I shut up, here goes my unpopular position. I hate, absolutely despise the term African American, because I have nothing to do with Africa. Nothing.
Mm-hmm.
I hate the fact that we have to be hyphenated, outside of white in this country. That makes me sick to my stomach. I mean, we're Americans when we're winning gold medals, but we're Americans when we're wearing the cloth of our country, right? Going out there, getting blown up, and ultimately dealing with those demons. Look, if we got to separate ourselves, I'll separate myself. Just that I'm black, and that's it. And that's it. I'm black, bro. So that was my disagreement with it. I mean, everybody's going to look at it differently. I don't know who sat down and fought for that, it being the PC term as African American, because that lineage is dead.
I want to say a lot of that came. I think that came from the rainbow.
They need to stop, because if we were born in Africa and then moved to this country and was naturalized, then that makes us African American. Same thing as Asian Americans or whatever. Then you get a hyphen. We were born here.
But I think a lot of the African American term came from during the Rainbow Coalition with Jesse Jackson and all those people. But I want to make this point concerning the case again, and I think back to something that Mitch said concerning how if he was a little black kid, same age, same set of circumstances, that the response from the police officers would have been totally different. I think back to the case of Tamir Rice, 12-year-old little boy doing what little boys do, running around playing with guns, man, and it brings a tear to my eye, fam, because I got a 12-year-old that likes guns because his dad played with guns for 21 years. You know what I mean? And to know that I have to have a conversation with my son about, hey, when you're approached by, we know the conversation. I won't even go into it. We know the conversation that we have to have with our boys, right? To see a case like this and him asking me questions, why, as inquisitive as our children are, and to not have an answer for my son, bro, it just is disheartening, right? And my view on the case is more along the lines of what the law says, as opposed to what we know what's really going on. You know what I mean? And the state of our country, we like in our last show, we talked about music, right? And things that Tupac said 20 years ago are still relevant today. Things that Malcolm X said 40 and 50 years ago are relevant today. So what progress have we truly made? Yeah, I can get a house and I can live almost where I want to live, but it's how much progress have we really made? You know what I mean?
Hey man, go ahead, Doc. I know you had something to say. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, Eric, you, as far as the what do you say to your kid, man? Because that is something, y'all know I'm a big gun carrier. I carry a gun everywhere I go, just about. And I'll say that. And it's not that there's not an answer. I think just the answer is just not good enough. Like, we can't give a good answer to that question. When you try to explain it to your kid, the only thing you can say is that because you're not the same color as they are, you can't do the same things that they do. That's not a good enough answer, but it's the truth. And go ahead.
I absolutely.
I was going to say that you're absolutely correct, but I always go back and tell people when they ask questions, like you guys talking about. I have sons too, man. And one thing that I never bought them growing up is I never bought them toy guns. Never bought it for them. And I mean, there's reasons. I mean, the reason why I never did that. I mean, boys love to do stuff. I remember when I was young, we loved to be outside playing cops and robbers and stuff like that. You can't do that nowadays. But here's the difference, though. The difference is because we don't live in the same community as I lived in when I was growing up. I lived in a predominantly Black community. So if you saw a bunch of Black kids running around playing cops and robbers or whatever, it was perfectly fine. But now we have decided to move out of those predominantly Black neighborhoods and insert ourselves in the community we want to live in, just like you said, Eric. And Black kids can't run around chasing little white kids with toy guns, playing cops and robbers, because it's not going to look the same. They're going to be looked upon as, oh man, who taught you why are you chasing this white kid with this gun? Stuff like that. So I never bought those things for them. But one thing that I always did was I never allowed my answer to be, because you're Black. That to me, that was not my answer. My answer to them was, you have to educate yourself on the reason why we can't do this. And the reason why we, have to be aware of our surroundings at all times. We talked about equality before, and because we would never be seen equal, I don't care. People always talk about, oh, racism is going to go away, man. No, it's never going to go away. Never going to go away. And the only way that you're going to prepare yourselves and your grandkids and your future kids, you have to educate them on the history, where we came from and where we're going. And that's going to help them understand how they can better prepare themselves. Education, to me, is the key to everything in America for Black people. If you educate yourself on what you can and can't do, and then when you do get in those situations where you made a bad decision or a bad choice, hire somebody who's been educated enough that's going to defend you. We are so quick to go out and be like, oh, I want that dude's lawyer because he got him off. Don't mean that you're going to get off too. You need to go out there and find somebody that's going to represent you the way that you want to be represented. That's why I think we are so in tune with each other, because we're all on the same page. We talk education more than we talk anything else. And to me, surrounding myself with guys like that, man, is very important to me, because you guys bring things into perspective and into my life that I didn't even think about at the time. And you know what I do when I hear stuff like that from you guys? I go back and I tell my kids, I go and I tell my wife, and we talk about stuff like that, because the only way for any of us to be successful is we have to know what's going on. We have to know what's going on. Just because Kyle walked around with that gun, thinking that it's okay, we know for a fact, you can be like, well, he did it, so we can all do it. Hey man, educate yourself and know that Black people, we can't do that. And then you guys talk about the law, and he was like, oh, well, this guy was arrested on this cocaine charge or this marijuana charge or whatever. Yeah, he probably was, but he didn't have the right defendant, or he didn't have the right, lawyer at the time that was going to help him out of that situation. Or the thing that bothers me the most about our culture, our community, we're so quick to say, oh man, this white guy got, probation for marijuana, and this dude got 14 years. Here's the difference. We all know about the white privilege part of it, but here's the other side of it. You don't know the other circumstances behind the Black dude getting 20 years. He may have had a prior charge before. He may have this. That's why I'm not so quick to jump on the Black bandwagon all the time, because sometimes it's just not genuine. It's not true. The facts aren't there. And the only way that you get those facts straight is you have to educate yourself. We have to educate our generation. And when we do that, man, we will be unstoppable. To me, when we stop sagging our pants, when we start sending our kids to college, when we start getting these jobs, and that judge that was in the Kyle's position turns into a Black guy and not a white guy, you know what I'm saying? When that defense attorney becomes Black and not white, we're going to get what we deserve. The equality is going to come in. When police chiefs become Black and not white, when FBI top guys become Black and not white, we're going to start winning those cases. But until then, we're not going to do it. We are so caught up on other things that are not important to us. We want to be rappers still. We got dudes that's 45 years old trying to be an aspiring rapper. Bro, it's over. Go to college. Do something else, bro. Your rap career's dead. You're 45, bro. Stop it. Do something else with your life. Like this is what we need to do. We need to change the dynamic. We need to make ourselves relevant. But if we can't do that, we're never going to win. We will never be equal. And that blinder is always going to stay on us. It's always going to peek to see what color it is. But if we change that color and change the dynamic, I guarantee you we'll be able to make it.
Yeah, ain't no rubber duck. Ain't no rubber duck. As not, it's over.
I know, bro. I'm 45, so I still got time. You know what I'm saying? But as far as education, man, I mean, yeah, that was perfect. Because it's definitely going to be a self-induced. Like as parents, we're going to be the ones that have to educate and have to foster that need to research. Right. You know what I'm saying? The history, past laws, all this other stuff. I mean, because what is one of the things that's in the media right now, that's actually, circulating, to the halls of Congress, man, for debate, critical race theory, right? Which is, of course, is not being taught anyway. Actually, it was a theory that was being discussed is, what if we actually told the truth? That Christopher Columbus could not have discovered something that was already inhabited. What if we told the truth, right? And the fact that they, right, I'm just gonna say they are attacking what it is that can and cannot be, taught. So that's where it comes back on a parental unit, right? To sit down and actually educate, especially our young men, about where we come from, what's relevant to us, how to conduct ourselves, et cetera, et cetera. It can't just be that cookie cutter answer, it's because we're Black. So that's off, man, for saying that, man, because well said, definitely well said.
So there's two things I want to kind of touch on, right? Something that you said, Mitch, concerning our justice system and the defense attorneys, right? In my opinion, I know Doc probably gonna bust me over the head after I say this, but it's all right, Doc. But in my opinion, when it comes to other groups of people, right, and they need money for their defense, right? Just like with Kyle Rittenhouse, his community banded together to make sure he had top level defense, right? But when it's us, we end up with a public defender, right? In my opinion, a public defender is only there to, one, make sure that the proceedings are done properly, and two, to get you to plea out, because they in most cases they are not prepared to go to trial, right? So what happens with us a lot of times, right? We got this public defender, the person that's supposed to know the law, and he's like, bruh, you may as well just plea out because blah, 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 blah. A lot of times we take the plea deal, right? Additionally, with that, if you look at public defenders, right, from my experience and from me seeing, multiple public defenders, they're either really young or really old, right? And they're not in their prime of law, so to speak, right? I would say the prime of law would be from 30 till about 55-ish, right? The thing with that, and if you do get one in that age group, most of those dudes failed at somebody's law firm, and they're just trying to keep their time and everything up with doing these different court proceedings, because if you don't use it, you lose it, right? So with that said, the really young dudes is trying to get their feet wet in trial law, et cetera, et cetera. And the old dudes, they didn't already did everything that they were going to do. So therefore, they just trying to, keep from being bored. So when you're defended by people like this, an extremely young dude that's just trying to get his feet wet, a dude that may have failed at another law firm, or somebody that's well past his prime, these are the results that we get. And I forgot my second point, but go ahead, Doc. I see you was trying to get in there.
Well, you threw me off with the public defender thing, because I mean, Okay, so public defenders are normally not good, but I don't know if it is their ability that is the problem. The problem is that they're overloaded and overworked, and they cannot sustain a large amount of these cases that they get. So when they get into court and they got 15 cases coming up, hey man, I'm trying to get these dudes through the system. And if I gotta get 9 of them to plead guilty, then that's what I'm gonna do. And that's a problem. It is a problem. The public defense system doesn't work. It just doesn't. It's not good. But according to that Constitution, they have to provide it, and this is what you get. So, unfortunately, that's where that is. I was going to say something in regard to what Sharod said also, and that was talking about parenting. I also need and want more, and it starts with us, man, Black men, being more in mentorship positions, man. It takes one thing to mentorship and bring up your own child, but when you're doing it for other people's kids, man, it's needed. We need more of us out there doing stuff, coaching basketball, football, ice hockey, whatever you want to coach. But or just being a teacher, going out and teaching, or whatever, art, whatever it is that you want to mentor people in. I just think people need to get out there and stop sitting on the knowledge that you do have, because a lot of people have a lot of knowledge that they're not using. Give it to the kids, man.
And Doc, that's an amazing point, because as soon as you said mentorship and us getting out there together, I thought of something that our ancestors and our grandparents used to say all the time. It takes a village, right? Because I remember as a kid, if I did some walking, matter of fact, I'm gonna say her name, and I know my mom and dad are gonna have they're gonna fall out laughing once I say this lady's name. My next door neighbor growing up, her name was Marie, right? Wonderful woman. Like, the last time I saw her, I was so happy to see her, because a lot of our elders are they're gone, right? And a lot of the knowledge that a lot of the knowledge we're losing. But I didn't necessarily do what I was supposed to do all the time, right? So I'd be out cutting class, walking the streets, and whatever else. And Marie always, for some whatever reason, she always caught me, right? And instead of her just went like, it ain't got nothing to do with me, the first thing she did is went to go tell my parents what was going on. When I was a little bit younger, we had some downstairs neighbors. We lived in an apartment building. It wasn't the projects, but it may as well have been. But that's a story for another day. Our downstairs neighbor, the Cole family, Chris and Sonia Cole, right? Me and their son, Chris Jr., we were thick as thieves, and we out there fighting and whatever else. They grabbed my behind, they grabbed Chris's behind, and in the building we go, and they escort me upstairs. Yeah, they down there fighting this, that, and the other. But we've lost, as a community, those type of mentorship and raising the community together, right? Because nowadays, we hear it all the time. Well, you better not touch my kid. I'm the parent, blah, 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 blah. But guess what? I got kids too, and I understand, what goes on with kids. But for me, I'm just like, you know what? It just is what it is. And I'm gonna say one more thing, and I'm gonna shut up, because I feel like I've been a little bit long-winded. My son is in a school here in Arizona. It's called Legacy, right? He was we transferred him from Imagine to Legacy, because we felt that the teachers were more engaged at Imagine than they were more engaged at Legacy than they were at Imagine. Like the year before and last year and the year before, prior to the pandemic, Eric was having a lot of trouble, right? And the teachers didn't seem as engaged as I thought they should be. We took him to Legacy, and we kind of transferred him within the first semester. And I went talking to the teachers, like, man, Eric, he's been out for a year because of the pandemic. I know this is going to be rough. And I went and spoke to each one of the teachers, and they were like, oh yeah, once we got him in line, he's been an angel. Never heard that in Imagine. And it wasn't them physically touching him to get him to do what they want. They just wasn't going to take his ish. You know what I'm saying? And I think in a lot of ways, man, we've lost the building of our communities, man, and it's just going to continue to get worse. Go ahead, Esther. I see you, fam.
I was afraid of my teachers growing up, man.
Facts.
It's like these kids now. I mean, you see it. I don't know, it's so far off subject, man. But they sitting down, filming themselves, man, physically assaulting teachers, disrespecting them. Like, you didn't talk back to Miss or Mr. or Mrs. nothing in that school, and you damn sure didn't want to go see the principals, any of them.
Bro, corporal punishment was a thing.
I'm gonna say one thing real quick, Sharod. And yes, bro, you are right. I was afraid of every single one of my, even the librarian, I was afraid of. But here's the deal, and I'm gonna talk about parenting as well. When you guys were talking about, when you were younger, those parents down the street got you in line and stuff like that. Parenting has changed, if you guys haven't noticed. Back in those days, it was okay for that to happen. That, and just like in school, when you were afraid of your teachers, that's because your teachers were elders, man. They were 50 and 60 years old. Right now, your teacher is 23. You know what I mean? Like, parents are 19, 20 years old, bro. They don't care about any of that. You better not talk to my kid that way. You better not do that. You better not do anything to that, because, you know what I mean? That's the way the communities are now. Those days when we grew up, when we were allowed to be parented by somebody else, those days are gone. Those days are no longer there. I can't go down the street and tell that kid, hey, man, pick that trash up off the street. You know what's going to happen? Hey, man, F you, Mr. Mitchell. I'm going to tell my mom. And then what's going to happen? They wouldn't call you Mr. Mitchell. Nothing. Exactly. I mean, they wouldn't say that. But, but what's going to happen? Now me and this dude's dad into it. You know what I mean? But the thing is, it's changed, man. Nothing is the same. And because nothing is the same, it's our responsibility to make sure our kids are doing the right thing. You know what I mean? And then what Doc is saying, and then when those other kids are inserted into those community programs, that's when we need to go out and help out. But just, walking down the street and trying to parent somebody else's kid and stuff like that, man, you'll get yourself in a lot of trouble. It doesn't happen, though. It doesn't happen that way these days. It doesn't work that same way. And the same thing in schools. And I will always go back to this. You guys heard me say it over and over again. Social media is raising today's kids. That's where they're learning everything from. That's how they're living their lives. And that's how they're going to continue to move forward. That's who's raising the kids these days. That's why we can't get a good crop of educated kids, because they don't want to hear anything outside of TikTok or Instagram or whatever's hot now in the streets, bro. You have to take this away from your child, and you need to teach them how to be what they need to be to grow up and be successful.
Hey,
that's the only way it's going to happen.
I might take it a step further, Mitch, and say it's the internet, period. The interwebs, whatever you want to call it. Because, the things like YouTube and things like that also are raising our kids, or kids of now. Like, yeah, man, we sat in front of the TV and we watched, G.I. Joe and He-Man.
Yeah, but check this out, though. We watch educational shows like The Cosby Show.
Reading like Rainbow.
That. But Reading Rainbow. Those shows don't exist anymore. You know what you got to right now? Love and Hip Hop, BMF, Power. Those are the shows that your kids are watching nowadays. And say, man, I want to be Ghost when I grow up, instead of I want to be Mr. Huxtable. It's different. Times are different.
Yeah.
Well, you can't be Mr. Huxtable anymore. He got canceled.
Well, not that, not Bill Cosby, Mr. Huxtable. I want to be Bill Cosby.
I know, man. I was joking. I was joking. You saw what I did there, right? I just tied the two in together, bro.
Yeah, you just conflated it all. We get it. We get it.
I feel you for sure.
But fellas, man, we've been at it for a little bit, man. And this was absolutely a really heavy episode. And I know we made light of some situations, but I do want to say that I mean no disrespect to the victims of that situation, right? Because each life is important, each life is special, and there are people that are going to miss those lives that were lost that day. So, to whomever's listening, we're not trying to make light of the situation that happened. But we've been at it, fellas, man. So before we close out, I do want to ask, where do we go from here?
Well, I think that is one of the hardest questions that you ever asked, because the answer is I don't know. I don't know the answer, honestly.
Yeah, that answer is so broad, man. I mean,
it is.
How can you really answer it? I don't know. I mean, taking bits and pieces of what we talked about today and going from here, where does that start? Do we look at educating ourselves more about laws? Where do you start with that? So I think I'll have an answer for you next time we talk, but I don't have a solid answer on it.
I say X, man, is unknown, man. I mean, we don't know what tomorrow has for us, has in store for us, man. Nor do we know if we're gonna be around tomorrow, man. So really, all we could do, man, is stay humble, man. Do the best we can, for our children. Try to touch, those around us, man, and maybe be, a pillar for someone else. But outside of that, man, who knows? It's all unknown. And I mean, the internet ain't going nowhere. Social media ain't going nowhere. I mean, as a matter of fact, if you got enough coin, man, you create your own app, man. You got another platform tomorrow. I mean, look at how many platforms are out there now. Yeah, man. Don't ask no more questions like that again.
The hardest part about that is that we're all Black fathers, and that's the question we ask ourselves every single morning when we wake up. Mm-hmm. What's next? How are we going to make an impact, not on just our household, but the people around us, and us walking out the door? How are we not going to get in trouble today? You know what I mean? Like it's one of those things, man, where it's going to be a continuous cycle of just understanding what's going around you and trying to make yourself better as a person. I mean, that's
so. Fam, this is what I'll say, man. And I know it's kind of, this gonna leave it real open ended, and it would probably require another hour for us to talk about it. But here's my issue, because we are all educated. We all got degrees. Doc is a doc, like a for real PhD, and he's going to be a lawyer. S. Mitch, both you guys got your master's degree. I'm getting back in school to get my master's degree. We're all very educated. But here's the problem. When we continue to educate ourselves, the goalpost continues to move, right? What I know today here in Arizona, that Arizona is a constitutional carry state, right? I can open carry here, I can conceal carry here, all without a license, even though I went and got licensed to conceal carry. Then I carry a LEOSA, which is the Law Enforcement Officer Safety Act, et cetera, right? But the goalpost continues to move for people with our skin tone. Because if I go out,
it's going to continue to move, because they don't want it to become stagnant. where we're learning the ways of the law. They don't want that to happen.
Exactly.
It's going to continue to move.
So I didn't want to hash up another hour-long conversation, because I know we could sit and talk for another hour and people be like, man, y'all bugging, and click, turn off. You know what I mean? But
right.
I do agree, though. I didn't say that to disagree with us needing to be educated, but I want to reinforce the point that you made, Mitch, that we have to start to replace the leadership in some of these institutions, right? Not only that, when we do replace the power structure in these institutions, we can't go in there with the mindset of doing things how they've always been done. We have to go in there and act change. But that change cannot be, I'm just going to do stuff for Black people. Nah, right. That ain't going to work either.
Right, man. You said a mouthful right there.
The change has to be that I'm doing what's best for humanity. So with that said, fellas, go ahead, go and get it. Go and get it.
No, I was just going to say, or you go in there and do what the justice system is designed to do, to be equal across the board.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And not, sway one way or another based on your skin tone.
Absolutely.
All right, I'm
good. But fellas, we've been at it, man. This was man, woo. When they get to listen to this show, man, it's going to be something. But you know what we getting ready to do? And I'm going to call on Doc last. He's shaking his head already.
Doc, he got it. He got right like this, bro, the whole time. We read it.
Go ahead.
All right, S. Dot, man. What you got for the people, man? What you got, S. Dot?
Nothing. Just continue to support, please. The more people we got listening, the more we could touch. And yeah, you can reach me on any social media platform, Sharod.lane.
Mitch, what you got for the people, fella?
And man, you can reach me on Instagram at Special Agent P. Also, man, I know we don't say this enough, man. As brothers, man, I love you guys, bro. I appreciate you guys letting me in on this stuff.
Love you too, man. No doubt about it.
Doc, you ready this time?
Nope, but I'm trying to read it.
So you can reach Doc Brown since he can't get it. You know what? This is like the running joke of the show now. You can't never.
I appreciate it.
Even when you know it,
man. You don't even try, man.
Even when you know it, you got to say that you don't know it because this is now the running joke of the show. Doc.Brown 11 on Instagram, right?
That's it.
And as for me, you can reach me on Instagram, DJ_YM4. And as always, I am one half of the Sophisticated Spark podcast. You can find Sophisticated Spark on all major platforms, but collectively, we are the Parallel Legacies podcast. You can find info.parallellegacies@gmail.com is our email. We're on Facebook, the Parallel Legacies group, Parallel Legacies podcast on Facebook, Parallel Legacies on IG. I think I said that already, but I'll say it again. And that's about it for the show, fellas. I appreciate your time. I love you, brothers. I got to go and wash clothes, man, because we're going to Oklahoma, where my wife is from, for Thanksgiving. So I know we all kind of prepping for that. So, but that was the show, fellas. Thank you for your time, and I'm sure we'll talk soon.